A registration type defines the behavior of editing and isolation in a geodatabase dataset. This is what we're going to discuss in this episode. Stay tuned. What's up, y'all? This is Hussein Nasser from iGeometry Podcast, and welcome to another Geodatabase Talk episode. In this episode, I'd like to go through the different type of registration that is supported by the Esri geodatabase model in a given dataset, right? So, and this is a nice complementary episode to our last episode of the versioning, where we discussed versioning in general. But this, I'll just go through the different type of the registration and briefly describe each of them, and maybe we'll dedicate an episode or show for each of these registration type, and we're going to discuss the newest type of registration, which is the branch versioning, in this episode as well. So the first one, when you first create your geodatabase, and bear in mind that we're discussing enterprise geodatabases here. We don't talk about the file geodatabase per se. It's just these registration types are strictly based on the enterprise. You get these features, you get these registration types when you enable the enterprise geodatabase on a multi-user geodatabase, essentially. So your Postgres, your SQL Server, Oracle, right? So the moment you create a new geodatabase on your enterprise geodatabase, and then you create a feature class or a table, right? This applies to both, right? When you first create a table, that table has the basic type registration, which is unversioned, right? So unversioned is the basic type of the geodatabase behavior, where you can create a table, you can add it to a map like ArcMap or Pro, and you can start editing. And you can start editing this feature. You can start adding stuff to this, features to rows to this table or feature class. So this gives you basic supports of short transactions, and we will discuss in details maybe in another episode what's the difference between short and high isolation versus long transaction and all these stuff. But let's just say this is like the basic thing. So you can't undo and redo, right? So it gives you like very basic. It doesn't give you any archiving, because you can go back in time. If you delete a feature, it is deleted from the database, right? If you create a feature, you update the feature, you lose your history, essentially, right? You don't have any history per se. The second type is versioning. Oh no, before we go to the versioning, still unversioned, but with the capability of archiving, usually referred to as unversioned archiving, right? So that's when you right click on a given class, right, from catalog, and you say, I don't want to register as version, I want to enable archiving. So that's unregistered as version, right? It's unversioned, but it has archiving capability. So now this gives you real cool stuff, right? You can undo, redo. You can have history on your data, because now if you delete, if you insert new rows, if you update new rows, you still have your history, right? You can go back in time and see how your data behaved like a month from now. Okay, so that's version, but you don't get isolation. Did I say isolation? That's actually a cool word. I mean high isolation. So you don't get isolation. I love that. I'm gonna use it. So you don't get the high isolation. That is, multiple users cannot edit that and have their own view of the world and edit their own version that can't be seen by anyone else, right? And you don't get all these fancy stuff where like, I'm in on my own version, I'm gonna create a whole new project, right? And start sketching all these roads, that proposals, and all this stuff, like a new substation project. You can't get that. Whenever you edit, everybody sees that. So this is true for unversioned and unversioned archive. The third type is versioning, right? So I'd like to refer it as traditional versioning because there's a new type of versioning here. But essentially, let's go back to unversioned. I have created a table. Now it is unversioned, right? So I'm gonna right click and say register as version. And just by doing that, we get versioning. This is the traditional the versioning that we have in the Esri model for 20 years, 15 years. I don't know. I wasn't born then. Kidding. I'm old. I'm 35. All right. So yeah, but versioning gives you the traditional way of versioning. So I'm not going to talk about the details of the versioning, but what you get out of that is you can edit now in high isolation. You don't have archiving, right? Because you didn't enable archiving. You said just register as version. So now you can create version, and you can have a lot of people edit this version. You can create a version of another version, which is pretty cool, right? So now you have a lot of people have their own versions, and they can have these versions run for a long time and have these versions inspected by a lot of people. You can share versions with a lot of users. Okay, and we'll talk about the details in maybe another episode. And guys, if you like these kind of episode, do let me know. I'm gonna reference my Twitter account HNASR, or just go to my YouTube channel iGeometry. That's my YouTube channel, iGeometry. I stand for an I and then geometry. And or go to HusseinNasser.com. Just shoot me an email if you have any question. If you love this stuff, do let me know so I can continue providing it to you guys. So that brings us to the fourth type, which is versioned archived. I'm just making names up here, right? We don't have like strict naming for this. I don't think Esri have this naming. Maybe it is, I don't know, but it's called traditional. So this is essentially versioned archived, right? This is the tradition, again, the traditional versioning. Again, I'm gonna explain that. We're gonna need 5 episodes for this. That's good, more content, why not? So traditional versioning with archiving. So you get versioning plus archiving. So now if you delete a feature, we have a history, right? If you delete a feature, you create a feature, you update a feature, we know what happened, right? So we keep history of that. Obviously, this has a price. Everything has a price. Enabling these stuff has a price, right? Has a cost, right? Because of the database, you have to think of all the performance that you get. And that brings us to the last type of version, which was released, I think, 2016, yeah, 2017. The branch versioning. Okay? Well, sometimes it's referred to as a branch versioning, sometimes it's referred to as a new service-based versioning. It was like a model that Esri looked at all the registration type and says, we want something that has all of the above, plus runs well on a stateless. We want it to be stateless, we want it to be service-based, and want it to be essentially scalable, right? So thus born the branch versioning. So it has a completely revamped internal structure, the branch versioning, but it gives you the versioning that you have. You still have high isolation. You have archiving for free. It gets with that. By having branch versioning, you get archiving and versioning at the same time. Okay. To do that, it's different. There's a new workspace connection type now. Previously, there was always one. You'll always you connect to a Geodatabase and that's it, right? But now you have to change your workspace connection to branch, and then if you register as version, there are little caveats here. I'm not going to go in details, but you will get your branch version, right? Branch version, you cannot edit in the client server, right? There's no way to edit in direct connection with the database, right? But you have to publish that service, and then you publish that service, and it's all this fits with the WebGIS model, right? The fountain just started, so that means the end of our episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. You guys stay awesome. Have a good day. Bye bye.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.